Hi everybody, this is a guest article from The Reluctant Anarchist. I managed to say the name. So, long story short, about 3 years ago I made the decision to install Arch Linux on my main PC, which I use extensively for all my professional work, including photo and video editing. I was a bit reluctant at first, pun intended, and skeptical about the idea. After all, I'd been daily driving Pop! OS back then and had only tried Arch on my spare laptop. But I was also captivated by the promise of the lightweight and reliable system that I could adapt to my specific needs, so I decided to take the leap of faith. So let's talk about the KISS principles. Everybody in the Linux space knows that Arch follows a strict keep it simple policy, but I never realized how simple it is until I tried installing it myself. For those who have no idea what I'm talking about, KISS means keep it simple, stupid, which in the context of operating systems means stripping away unnecessary packages and delivering a streamlined experience. And by unnecessary packages, I mean all unnecessary packages. I learned this lesson right after I finished installing Arch Linux for the first time via the Arch install script and found out that it didn't install the NTFS driver by default. And my first thought was, well, that can't be true. This is the basic package that everybody needs. Why didn't they include it in the basic desktop installation? Turns out it wasn't the Arch install fault. It did ask me whether I wanted to root into installation for post-installation configuration, and it was me who selected exit Arch install in the terminal window. Later, it would make me realize that if I want to see something on my computer, I should go and install that for myself. This could be applied to everything else from COOPs for printers and music players to a Bluetooth stack. All of them doesn't come pre-installed with Arch Linux. This is a pure manifestation of the do-it-yourself philosophy. Nobody knows exactly what you need, and only you can choose what you're going to install on your system. Otherwise, you're going to get a bloated system. Beginner-friendly maybe, yes, but bloated. Arch is the best distro to learn Linux. This approach might seem daunting at first. However, it allows you to learn exactly what you need to make your PC work for you. It helps you evade packages and creating dependencies that you don't require, making your system much, much lighter. The act of selectively choosing what to install allowed me to see each package and every systemd service as a piece of a larger puzzle, and that is the overall behavior of my system depends on the combination of those pieces. This level of personal responsibility is so important that the learning process of Linux. You have to completely ditch the third training wheel in order to learn how to ride a bike, even if it means falling down and grazing your skin every once in a while. Everything I know about Arch Linux I've learned from a mix of sources, including YouTube tutorials, Reddit discussions, and of course the Arch Wiki. All three sources made Arch Linux feel really approachable, actually. So Arch Wiki became my best friend. I've spent countless hours scrolling through its pages, looking for help, troubleshooting, and learning new useful pacman commands. And after all, learning Linux is more than just memorizing terminal commands and getting used to a desktop environment. It's all about seeing the underlying architecture and understanding the way it works on a very deep and sometimes when you try to fix Bluetooth for a couple of hours, very personal level. Plus, there is a funny side effect. This whole thing about KISS principles not just turned Arch a perfect distro to learn Linux, but also helped me appreciate and respect the distro that work out of the box like Ubuntu, Pop! OS, Mint, Fedora. By the way, before I go on, this is day 10 of the advent of Niko, where I publish one video every day with the goal of reaching 400 paid subscribers by Christmas. The context is that I decided to quit my job to do videos, and this means that I now need a magic thing called revenue to pay for rent and for writers and such. Luckily, I already have 115 subscribers amongst Patreon, LibrePay, Ko-Fi, and my website, thelibre.news, where you can read this video as an article if you hate my pronunciation. To those people who support me, thank you so much. You're the only reason this video exists, because I don't do sponsors right now. So help us break even and continue doing videos if you can. Back to the video. Arch is reliable. When I was installing Arch for the first time, I was intimidated by the idea of a rolling release distro. And it wasn't completely my fault. The language that people on YouTube and Reddit use to compare Arch to stable and beginner-friendly distros kind of implies that Arch is not a stable distro and definitively not a beginner-friendly one. Arch turned out to be way more stable and way more reliable than I expected. So-called bleeding edge packages that people were talking about online turned out to be just normal, up-to-date versions of apps that I wanted to use on my system anyway. And when it comes to maintaining an operating system, Arch plays me with some pretty reasonable safety checks. As an example, pacman, the pacman package manager always stores its downloaded packages into var cache pacman pkg and does not remove the old uninstalled versions automatically, so you could downgrade them later if something goes wrong. This also helps if you need to reinstall recently deleted packages directly from the cache directory without the need to download them again from the repository. The most preferable method of updating the system, sudo pacman -suu sorry, is -syu, updates all packages automatically, eliminating the risk of creating dependency hell. And pacman also doesn't allow you to remove a certain package if it's listed as a dependency for another application. It literally took me a few days to set up DaVinci Resolve, Reaper, GIMP, and Raw Therapy, and these 4 apps covered most of my professional need for the recent years. I was also using this PC for gaming, and over the last 3 years it was working like a charm. I haven't had any significant issues or instabilities. Arch is a reliable distro, or at least it was up until 2025 when I installed GNOME 49. Which gets me to Wayland. GNOME 49 did one thing that disrupted my whole creative workflow. It disabled X11 sessions by default and forced me to use Wayland, which made my life much harder. The bitter truth is that I had to learn myself was that the user experience under Wayland session is subpar on some desktops. My desktop is built around RTX 3070, which I needed for GPU accelerated video rendering and VRAM management, and under the Wayland session that is broken. Switching languages on GNOME 49 under the Wayland session was making my whole system freeze, drag and drop support was bad, and global hotkeys was still non-existent. And to fix that, I had to manually restore X11, downloading and rebuilding Matter, GDM, GNOME, and GNOME shell packages myself. And it's not just a GNOME problem. KDE Plasma also has a similar issue with the recent split of KWin into KWin Wayland and KWin X11, which is now even unmaintained. Users running the old X11 session on Arch Linux need to manually install the Plasma X11 session if they want to be able to log in. Now, it would be fair to mention that this whole Wayland rant is not really related to Arch directly, since your particularly Arch-based system can be whatever you want it to be. I am free to install Arch with XFC and never give a damn about Wayland, but as somebody who's using Arch Linux for all of my professional work, I can separate the distro from the user experience that comes with the desktops, especially if we are talking about 2 of the most popular desktop environments in Linux, and the transition to Wayland was the single biggest source of issues for me. I do understand that there are development reasons for deprecating X11's good one as well. However, a major desktop environment moving too fast on Wayland adoption brings a net harm to the Linux community. It just reinforces the misconceptions that Linux is not ready for the general public. It will also hurt the perception of Arch Linux, which I was using perfectly fine for 3 years. The biggest problem with that Wayland creates is not about Wayland itself. It's still maybe the best display server protocol in the whole world, but I don't care how good it is if it breaks the user experience. No project is more important than the user of the project. So after 3 years of daily driving Arch Linux, I found myself in love with the system. Arch Linux is precisely everything everything I've read about Arch Linux. It's reliable, it's blazingly fast, it's well, more importantly, it respects my choice, even when I choose not to install the NTFS driver. As they say, with great power comes great responsibility. Now, I totally understand why it got a reputation as a cool kid Linux distro, and I'm using Arch, by the way, it became such a meme. It sits in a perfect sweet spot between beginner-friendly distros and do-it-yourself distros like Gento, I don't know, and LFS that require you to compile individual packages. Arch Wiki has given me a solid understanding of underlying Linux concepts, including package and service managers. It taught me how to maintain my system, and I also learned the hard way the difference between two existing display server protocols. When it comes to Linux, you are the only one who's responsible for installing and maintaining your own system, so it's going to be as stable as I want it to be, and this is especially true when it comes to Arch Linux. Thanks, Reluctant Anarchist, for that article. Go give him some love. You can find him on YouTube. And yeah, I just want to address the fact that this is such a mess. I'm building some, I promise, very cool stuff, which I'll talk about. It's basically a weird do-it-yourself camera, so it's very on spot with, with the message of the video. And yeah, I kind of disagree with the Wayland part of myself, but hey, that's why we do guests, to have like different opinions. So thanks everybody, and see you tomorrow. Where's the stop button?